This is Umar for BoxNation. I'm at the headquarters of Queensberry office. I'm joined by Mr. Queensberry himself, Frank Warren. Going to do something a bit different today to start this video off. I'll just let Emma bring your drink in.
Yeah, I've got to have my hot lemon honey and whatever else it is because I'm absolutely dying on my backside here from this terrible cough and cold. I've not been able to shake it off since we got back from Saudi.
Do you want me to bring that over?
That'd be too hot at the moment. Leave it there. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I said we're going to do something different as it's the new year. I've got an Usyk-Fury 2 official program. I can see your face there, a message from you there. I don't know if you want to sign it either there or here. We're going to give it away to a lucky follower.
Right, I'll do that. You want me to do that now?
Yeah, why not? Just get out of the way. Wherever you want to sign it, Frank.
Where it can be seen, if they want to see it. There you go.
There you go. Okay, so all you've got to do to win that is like this video. So pause the video now before you watch the rest of it and forget. Like the video, and then you're going to comment one fight that you think Frank Warren wants to make in 2025. And the fight you can't put is Nick Ball via Inoue, because you said that on your last video. So everyone knows you want to make that fight. Don't declare the fight, Frank. I want to see what people say. You can tell me off camera afterwards, and I will deliver that official program to one lucky follower. So like the video, comment one fight you think Frank Warren wants to see in 2025 that's not already been made. Right, okay. Well, the first place to really start with, I think, Frank, is why this year has been one of the best years in boxing that we can remember. A lot's happened. You said that Riyadh season and what his excellency is going to be doing is going to be a game changer. You said that in October 23. Obviously, Queensberry have been pivotal in the whole situation. Your staff, yourself, George, everyone's worked tremendously hard. But this year's really changed boxing, hasn't it, Frank?
Oh, dramatically in all ways. You know, the world's capital of boxing was considered to be Las Vegas. That's certainly now shifted to Riyadh, no doubt about that. The amount of big fights that have taken place there, not just the main events, the undercards, which are most of them been main events in their own right. They've been phenomenal, and it's just gone from strength to strength. It has become the home of big time boxing, and it's a bigger game changer than I thought it would be, to be quite honest. I knew it'd be big, but you know, it's gone through the roof. And I just feel that for a boxing fan, you know, for everybody in boxing, at the end of the day, we work what we work at. We like to feel we're in a business that we enjoy watching, as being fans as well. It doesn't get any better than this.
Something I mentioned there is your staff, and before we go on to other things, it can get overlooked at times because, you know, people who are watching the fights, consuming this sort of content, don't get to see that the hours and the graft that your team and everyone's team has to put in. But obviously with the whole deal with Seller and Riyadh season, Queensberry are the team running it operationally. So it's a lot of stress, a lot of hard work that I get to see your staff putting in, Frank. So a word to everyone in the office.
Yeah, my staff have just been phenomenal, along with the Seller team who are brilliant, and HE. But, you know, the nuts and bolts of it all is my lot, all on the ground out there, you know, working alongside everyone to make it the success, help make it the success it is. And, you know, they've all been great. You know, the hours, people think, you know, we're not working 9 to 5 here. It's 24/7. There's obviously different time zones. So that's what we all do. And that's between us, what we have to do to make things work. And without the people on the ground, these events would be very, very difficult to make such a success of. They've been brilliant. My staff are the best in the business, no doubt about that. And Seller got some great people working there as well. Some great people.
And of course, leading that staff, not only yourself, but your son, George, who's done a tremendous job.
He's done a phenomenal job. You know, he's a great CEO. He does, you know, he's very well respected, and what he does it properly. He's very rational. You know, he's probably not as emotional as I am as I get in the fights, but then I've been around a long time, and and that's I am. I mean, I don't do things by halves. I get involved. I'm involved, and If I believe something, I'll go and fight for it. That's why we're still doing what we're doing, which is producing champions. You know, this didn't happen in the last year. We've been working on this for a long, long time. You know, we signed Daniel Dubois, for example, nearly 10 years ago and invested in him when he was 17 years of age. Same with Moses. Moses is he's been with us nearly 3 years now. So they're the talents that we spotted. You know, and I could talk about lots and lots of like Nick Ball and go through all the guys that are coming through, Hamzah, and it's all happening for them. And Sam Noakes, and we're going to go through a lot of the fighters during the interview, but all these guys, it's all happening from them because of their abilities, the teams that they've got around them, the great trainers that they've got working with them, the managers and so forth, and obviously our expertise in making the right fights, picking the right moments, and putting them in the right fights. It doesn't happen overnight.
No, that is an important point. You're right. We're going to go through each fighter as much as we can. Otherwise, we'd be here till 2026. But that is a massive point. And you've been in the game for donkey's years. The experience you have, when you invested in the likes of, especially someone like Daniel Dubois, had so many down points and people writing him off. Someone like Nick Ball, who wasn't known a couple of years ago and now is one of the biggest stars there is, Hamzah Sheeraz. What is it that you're looking for to develop them further?
Talent and dedication. And you get it right sometimes. Most of the times I like to think we get it right. And over the years, that's been the case. And guys that are not, they're not gone to the Olympics. They're not won medals and so forth. You look at these fighters, like a lot of the fighters I've worked with over the years, they weren't Olympians, or they didn't win medals, and a few of them who did win medals came with us, have come with us over the years. But we're very good with talent and developing them, and bringing them through, and moving them on. And it's and I'm not saying this for anyone. We have the best group of fighters under our umbrella, under the Queensberry umbrella, than any promoter in the world now. There's no doubt about that. The young fighters, the world champions, the ones that are on the cusp of fighting for world titles, and I believe can win them, we're the best out there.
Well, the name I mentioned at the start was Daniel Dubois, and he's had a phenomenal 2024. It's been nothing short of remarkable. The 2 wins over Filip Hrgović and Anthony Joshua. So we're going to start with Daniel Dubois and review his 2024. Just talk to me about that fight with Filip Hrgović. Obviously, a very difficult start. He shipped about 80 right hands, but the bottle, the heart he showed, and then ended up breaking Filip Hrgovic's will in the end.
Well, that is exactly what happened in that fight. It showed what he's all about, and we believed in him from the beginning. I mean, even when people, all the smart asses were saying what they were saying about him, and so forth. That's never been my opinion. We never give up on him. We stayed with him, worked with him, and he worked with us. And his dad, his team, they've all, we've worked together because we believe in what we're doing. And I knew what was in him, and it was just how it came out. And he's grown up, and I'm not saying that disrespectfully to him, but he's matured mentally in a big way. The way he conducts himself now is much different than before. I mean, you couldn't get 2 words out of him. He has no interest in, mouthing off and being the big guy, and all that. And I mean, even when he jumps in the ring after the fight and challenge Usyk, it's quite spontaneous, and that's not really how I've ever seen him. But he, when I spoke with him afterwards about it, I mean, he just says that he wants that fight. He wants the revenge, and that's how he's become. He's very confident in what he can do. We know he's got the tools. He's shown that. The power's always been there. He's probably the biggest punching heavyweight at that level out there. Biggest puncher. And he's got great boxing ability. And as I say, he's matured. Him and Don Charles have now formed quite a unique bond and relationship. And they got a few other guys on the team, and it's gelling and working well. So, he's in a brilliant position now, a brilliant position.
We'll obviously come on to that incredible night at Wembley Stadium with Anthony Joshua, but just one more on that Filip Hrgović fight. We've got to remember he was actually being, in terms of boxing circles, written off in that fight, actually. against Philip. Philip's a world-class operator, was described as the boogeyman of the heavyweight division. And we haven't really heard from him since that fight with Dubois.
Excuse me. I think that fight took a hell of a lot out of him. You know, when you look at the early stages of that fight, and as you say, you shipped a few right-handers, and if you suddenly not got rid of the guy, then you think, bloody hell, and he comes back at you as he did, and he came back in that fight and came back in a big way. He broke his heart. All what he said he was going to do, Philip, all what people thought he was going to do to Daniel, break his heart with his experience, it turned out to be the other way round.
It was a tremendous win. That was in June. And then moving on to September, the biggest, arguably the biggest sporting event this country's seen in 2024, actually.
It was a phenomenal fight to massive name in British sport, in Anthony Joshua, probably in world sport. Massive name. You know, great reputation, Olympic gold medalist, 2-time world champion, on a roll, come back with two or three really good wins? Certainly the one before the fight was a brilliant win for him. In with a fella who, in Daniel, who came off of a controversial moment in a fight against Usyk, and then put together three brilliant wins. And everybody had a view on the fight. He went in there again, Daniel was an underdog, but done the business and done it in style and showed what a force he is in heavyweight boxing. You know, a commanding force. You know, Harry controlled that fight from the very first bell. Excuse me.
A moment that sticks out to me, which was before the fight, and you talked about how Daniel's grown up. And if you think of Daniel Dubois 4 or 5 years ago, maybe, and was in a room with Anthony Joshua, Eddie Hearn, and yourself, he might have not talked to Anthony Joshua the way he did in that moment 4 or 5 years ago, but he told Anthony, I'm not gonna let you be the boss of me, essentially, in that moment. And I think that was probably a big moment.
It was
in how the first round played out.
But he did the same thing to Hrgovic.
Yeah.
And he said it in more explicit fashion.
He did, yeah.
And I was shocked when he, pleasantly shocked. Not the sort of language you want to be, letting your grandkids hear, but that's how it was. That's how what he said. And the bottom line of all of it is that, I don't know, you look at his record, he fought good fighters, Daniel. He fought some good fighters and he won some good fights. And he was a kid. That's what everybody forgets. He was a kid. And the two losses he had, one was certainly in a controversial fashion with a 4-minute break and so forth, and even the one that he had against Joyce was not the normal way a fight would end. With the fact of the damage that he got. So, it is what it is. But what he's done is come back and shown heart and shown what it's all about.
Just talk me through the knockout of Anthony Joshua as well.
Sorry?
Just talk me through the knockout of Anthony Joshua.
No, I said, I'm not being after time, and I said that fight for me was about who controlled it from early on in the fight, and it was going to be about the battle of the jabs, and that's what it was. And that jab he threw in the very first round, he snapped AJ's head back, and AJ, I don't think, got over that. But he did regroup himself in the round before, I think it was the round before the stoppage, where he caught Daniel with a really good uppercut, a very good uppercut. And then when he was I know he was in the corner, and, he said, it weren't like, the words we'd probably use is like shit or bust. He said, I'm going to go and roll the dice. And that then I just felt was going to be the end of that fight. He was breaking him down anyway. He had him on the floor a few times. But I felt once he said that, and if that's what he was going to do, that would be his undoing. And it was. As soon as he threw that big punch, he leaves himself wide open for the counter. And he caught him with that counter, and that was it, lights out.
And for yourself, as we mentioned, it's been a bit of a personal journey so far with Daniel Dubois, because you've stuck with him through some very dark moments. And for that performance, that victory to come, as you said, against one of the biggest stars in the sport, in AJ, in a packed national stadium.
Yeah. A star is born.
I know you've been involved in some massive fight nights across your career, Frank, but that must stick out.
Oh, it does, because it's somebody you've worked with from the beginning. And normally when the guys come through, most of them haven't had losses. and he had a couple of losses, as I said, for whatever reason. And it was a satisfying moment for me because of our belief, our team's belief in his ability to do what he did, and he's still only 27 years of age.
Yeah, incredible. What I found funny after that fight is he just wanted to go home.
Well, that's what he is. That's how it is. He's not interested in the limelight. He's not interested in the trash talking, the press conference. He didn't want to go to the press conference. You said it. I had to go and get him to come to the press conference. He was going home. Out in Riyadh, after that fight, we were looking for him to go and sit down and have a chat about a few things. And he went back to the hotel and went to bed.
Just him.
But that's him.
Yeah.
That's what he is, and that's it. And but people pay to see what they do in the ring. And as I said, the star was born that night. They see what he was all about. That was a dramatic fight, dramatic ending.
And actually, with Daniel Dubois, last one across his career, even the losses and the wins he has, he's always in an exciting fight.
He's never been in a bad fight ever. Every fight he has is an exciting fight. You know why? He can punch. He's a big puncher, and anything can happen with big punchers. But what he's doing now, he's showing just that little bit, that different side of him, that he can box as well. He can box.
Yeah, certainly. Lennox Lewis, who had one of the best heavyweight jabs, him and Larry Holmes, has said that he believes Daniel's actually in that ilk with that heavyweight jab he has.
I agree with that. And it's not a jab where he's feeling you out. He's taking your head off with it. He doesn't feel you out with a jab. He snaps your head off.
Yeah, it's a thunderous jab. Right, from one heavyweight to another. Not much as a bright year for this man, Tyson Fury. Obviously involved in the two biggest fights of the year with Alexander Usyk. Both close fights, Frank, but two losses for Tyson Fury. How do you assess the year for him?
Look, obviously, I'm disappointed because, and it's funny. Like, if you say how you feel, then obviously you get some people rail against it. The second fight, what my gripe was, and it's still my gripe in that fight, is how going into the sixth round, one judge, well, a couple of them had him scores near that, but one judge had him 4-1 up. And they said he never won a single round after that, which is absolute and utter nonsense. I watched the fight back. I don't watch it through rose-coloured glasses. I watched it being there, being in the moment, and I've watched it coolly and calmly. And to say he never won another round or 2 rounds out of those last 6 is a nonsense. And had he won 2 rounds, he's won the fight. Wins 1 round, it's a draw. So what the point I'm making is, I'm not in any way denigrating Alexander Usyk at all. He's a great fighter. He's a great champion. They're both great fighters. It takes 2 fighters to have fights like that. Whatever anybody wants to say, nobody can tell me that those fights were not very close fights. And you score, you can look at around the nuance of a fight, what a fighter does, how you want to score the fight. That's what you're looking for in a fight. For me, I felt Tyson had done enough, and I felt he won the fight. And I felt the same in the first fight. But they're very close. They were very close fights. No one got destroyed. I mean, the first fight, Tyson had that horrible 9th round. But other than that round, he wasn't in any trouble during the fight. What I would call trouble. That 9th round was a bad round for him. But also there was a couple of rounds that were a bit wobbly as well for Usyk in the first fight. It was a close fight. It'll always be a close fight. There are fights like that over the years. You can look, Ali, Ken Norton were close fights. Their styles sometimes make that happen. They're 2 very great fighters, the best heavyweights up to now of this century, no doubt about it.
Lewis Holyfield was another one.
Another fight, yeah. Both those fights very close. And, I had my opinion on them who won the first fight. It wasn't so outrageous as what people were saying. It's just that people were screaming about it for obvious reasons. But that happens. They're fighters. They were similar in The age difference weren't that different. They weren't over the hill fighters. They were, nigh on at their best. That was a great fight. It will always be a fight, and it will always be like that fight.
Just to clarify a few things, because there's been thousands of comments about what you've said about those two fights. So it sits okay with you that in both fights, Usyk got the nod. Is that a fair statement?
They got the nod.
Is that a fair statement?
It sits for me. They were close fights, and I get that. But what doesn't sit close to me in that last fight is how anybody can score that fight that Tyson did not win one round of the last 7 rounds. It's a nonsense. Go and watch it back. It's a nonsense.
Okay. Difficult to say because he would have just had his Christmas and New Year's. But where do you think that leaves Tyson Fury?
Well, he was in a very, very close fight that he lost by the decision.
But what else is there for him?
What else is there for him? I don't know. I think it's too soon to say that. I mean, what else there is for him right now is to go and enjoy himself. He's been in training camp. His first training camp was pretty awful, what was going on and so forth, the cut and everything. The last one, he had a perfect training camp, no gripes about that. Went into the fight, didn't get the decision as we like it to be. But now he's there to go and enjoy himself. He like Usyk, like Joshua, they're all very wealthy guys. And quite rightly so. They're in the toughest of sports. They've done extremely well. What Tyson wants to do, Tyson will do. That's his choice. Whatever he chooses to do, I will support him. He said, today, I want to retire. I will say, God bless you. Enjoy yourselves. And try and get him involved in another capacity in boxing. Because I think it'd be great for the sport. I'm pissed off with the stuff that was said about him in a couple of them sharpening their pencils up, who sit on the safe side of the rope, and the thing that was said about him, which was for me was libelous. Headline calling him a petty thug. That was disgraceful and disgusting. He's whether you like Tyson or not, what he does in the ring is give everything. You look at the fights he's had, his last fights, every one of them. They've been tough fights. There've been a couple of easy ones, but there's been a lot of tough ones where he's shown what he's all about. He's shown about his heart and his courage, getting off the floor, gritting his teeth and fighting. He's a fighting man, and he's one of the best fighting men to come out of this country, bar none.
I know you said it's way too soon to maybe speculate what's in 25 because you wouldn't have spoke to him about anything related to boxing since the Usyk fight in terms of the future, etc. But from a Frank Warren point of view, I've asked you there what's there left. The only thing that springs to mind is a fight with Anthony Joshua because the country would still stop for that.
Well, that fight would, I'm sure it is there to be made, and or if people want to see it, and we'll see what happens. No doubt about that. Of course, people would watch that. They'd watch him fighting lots of different fighters still. The heavyweight division's lively. He's not a washed-up fighter. He's not had 7 bells kicked out of him and it's all over. Same as Usyk. There are fights to be made there. There's some great fights to be made.
Okay.
If he wants to do it. He's a very wealthy man. He's got a lovely family, a very close family. And whatever he decides to do, he needs to consider it and think about it carefully.
We are going to stick with the heavyweights for a while. You've got that many. It's going to take a fair bit of time. But someone who's had a tremendous year is Fabio Wardley.
Brilliant.
He had a classic fight with Fraser Clark at the O2. I know you didn't have him at the time, but that was an out-and-out war. And then, of course, you signed him. The rematch didn't last very long. Luckily, Fraser Clark was okay because that was a brutal knockout in Riyadh. It was. But to get Fabio on the books, another top-class heavyweight from this country as well, and what he did on his Queensberry debut, you must be delighted with that.
Absolutely. He made a fabulous statement. No doubt about that. And he's got a great, great future ahead of him. He's got some great fights there to be made. In an ideal world, I want to deliver him a massive fight at Ipswich Football Ground this year. That's what we want to do with him. But he's certainly there. He's one of the top heavyweights in the world now. He's in there. He's done. I mean, the power that he has is phenomenal. No doubt about that. These heavyweights, they're letting these bombs go now. And that's why they're such exciting fights. They're big punchers.
Definitely. Frank, I do notice you're squeaking your shoes there. That just might pick up on the mic.
Oh, sorry, mate.
No, that's all right.
Here's my shoes, by the way. Squeaky bum time. Go on, carry on.
For clarification. Yeah, Ipswich, I mean, that would be a huge occasion for him, something I think he thoroughly deserves. That was arguably, there was a load of viral knockouts, but that was knockout of the year, would you say, from him?
It's up there, isn't it? I mean, there have been such good knockouts. I mean, we're blessed with them, but certainly one of them, that's without a doubt, if not the knockout of the year.
And I know you said, even actually before when you met Fabio, when you weren't working with him on a promotional deal, when he fought David Adeleye, you said that he's a very good guy to be around with.
Oh, he's a nice, really nice person. What you see is what you get. I've really enjoyed. I'm really pleased that he's on board with us. It's really nice working with him and his team. They've been really good to deal with, and he's a great addition to the boxing scene, not just to Queensberry, to the boxing world. He's a great ambassador for the sport.
Is he ready now for world level?
Yeah, he is world level. That was a world-class knockout.
Certainly was. Right, I didn't think we'd actually be talking about this gentleman in a 2024 review, to be honest, but he's full of surprises, and that's Derek War Chisora, who had a barn burner with Joe Joyce in July at the O2. Underdog in that fight, Joe was a big favourite, and he really tore up the script that night, Derek Chisora, and he's landed himself, obviously, another big fight in February with Otto Wallin. But just that fight at the O2 was a night to remember. It
was a great fight. I mean, two guys in there, they give everything. It was a very close fight. And Derek pulled away at the end and did what he did. And Joe Joyce, again, a lovely guy. I mean, that was a cracker of a night, and a fabulous atmosphere, good fight. And Derek's now in another big fight next year. We're in Manchester. We've done nearly 11,000 tickets already for that show. There's going to be a fabulous, fabulous atmosphere there, and that's going to be a great fight.
With Derek, I mean, this is a journey that goes way, way back. I think 2006.
Yeah, he turned pro with me. Yeah. He turned professional. I remember in those days, Dean Powell was my matchmaker then, and he was part of the team with it.
I know he speaks, obviously, the late, great Dean Powell, he speaks very fondly of him, Derek.
Yeah.
He was close to him, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was quite close to him. And Don Charles was his trainer. He was his trainer, Don. I mean, he cut his teeth on working with Derek. It's funny how the world revolves and turns around, and there he is now in a great position with a world champion.
Like a lot of people, you were very open, and a while ago you said Derek should retire.
Yeah.
I guess he's proven everyone wrong.
Well, he has. He's certainly proven me wrong. And this next one coming up is his 49th fight, and he wants to get to 50.
You glad to be ending his career, with Queensberry, etc.?
I'm glad that we've got a better relationship than we had. I'm glad with that. I'm glad about that.
What happened, if you don't mind me asking?
I can't even remember what it was now, but it was what it was. He come off a lot. Listen, we worked our balls off to get him into some really big fights, and fights. Unfortunately, he lost a few, but we kept getting him into fights, and a couple of bad decisions, by the way.
Joe Joyce, it's been a difficult period for him. Someone that a couple of years ago was on a huge momentum, big role, that suffered those losses with Zhang. Obviously, as I said, lost to Derek this year. Where do you think Joe is in the heavyweight division, and review his 2024?
He had a comeback fight, didn't he, after his loss, and then he had the fight with Derek. What do I think? I think this year now as it is, we're not saying goodbye or anything, because again, Joe's a lovely guy, great pedigree as an amateur, and certainly as a pro, and gives everything in the ring. Can he turn it round? We will give him the opportunity to see if he can. And if he does, I'll be the most delighted person about that. But let's see if he can do that. He's a lovely, lovely guy. And he knows whatever fights he's in now are there fights that are going to define what his future is in boxing.
Do you think age has caught up with him?
He's not had a lot of he's not had a lot of professional fights. It's not like there was a lot of miles on the clock.
What I will, and that is a valid point. He's not had many professional fights, but what I will say to that is the amateur fights that he had, the sparring that he's had, and the pro fights. In terms of the way he fights, he does take a lot of punishment, and if you combine all that, that might have taken something out of him.
Well, that's a fair and valid point, and we will see. That we will see. But one thing's for sure, he'll get his opportunity because I believe that he deserves that. And then after that, if it goes well, then fine. If it doesn't, then I promise you the first person to be telling him I feel he shouldn't go on will be me, the same as I've done with other guys in the past. Some have ignored it. Derek Chisora, for example.
Yeah. Okay. Zhilei Zhang, your big bang from China, up and down year for him. Suffered that loss with Joseph Parker in earlier this year, last year. I forget we're in 2025 now. Time's racing away. Suffered that loss, but obviously that fight with Joseph Parker was an up and down fight. He had Parker down on the canvas.
Twice he had him down.
Twice.
Yeah.
And then he had that knockout win over Deontay Wilder. But just looking back at that fight with Joseph Parker, fight of two halves, really. We do know Zhang down the stretch does lose momentum, but he's a very quick starter, and he's dangerous.
He's a big man and he's a fast man, and you're right what you say, and that's what happened. It was a fight. I think it was a fight of 3 quarters and a quarter because he had him down, I think, in the 8th round. Was it the 8th or 9th round he had Joe down? I think so. But, these guys, I mean, like I said earlier on, they're big punchers. One punch can just change these fights around, and they've done it. You've seen it happen. Everybody, we talked about Joe Joyce. You talk about Joe Parker. Joe Joyce beat Joe Parker, was the first man to stop him, put him on the floor. It just changes dramatically because they're such competitors and they're such big punchers.
Certainly. And we know Zhang's obviously in a
he's on the
massive fight.
On the 22nd. He's got that big fight against Caballero. It's a really, really good fight. It's a quality fight. Final. That's for the interim title. Winner of that is Usyk's mandatory.
Okay. The man who won that fight against Zhang was obviously Joe Parker. We'll talk about him in a second. But that knockout of Deontay Wilder that Zhang had. Devastating, wasn't it?
That was unbelievable, wasn't it? I mean, it was a unbelievable fight, and he done brilliantly. He showed what he's all about. He's a nice man. He's just a real nice guy. I mean, I don't speak Chinese, and he speaks English better than I do. But he's such a he's a good guy.
And his team as well.
Yeah, they're lovely people. The Lane brothers. I mean, they're a joy to work with. They're a joy to work with.
Joseph Parker has had an incredible resurgence. Obviously, at the end of 23, he had that win over Deontay Wilder, which shocked a lot of people. And then that win over Zhang this year. Yeah. He's obviously set himself up for a massive fight with Dubois on that Feb 22nd card. But Joseph Parker's been a remarkable story, the way he's turned his career around.
Unbelievable. I mean, he's a winning fighter, ex-world champion. In fact, I see him at the last show.
He's filled out.
He looked big. He looked so big. I was quite, he got out the lift as I was getting in. I looked at him, I had to have a double take. But he looks big. I know he's doing the weights or what he's doing, but he looks a big man. And him and Daniel is going to be a great fight. No doubt about that. It's going to be a great fight.
That is a world-class fight. David Adeleye. Shocked a lot of British
got his
fight
mojo
fans.
Back.
Incredible win over Dakers.
Big punch again. Big punch that was. Big punch. Pulled it out of the bag and done what he had to do. He got back to basics and got back to, focusing what goes on in the ring and forget about what goes on outside sometimes. That's what he did, and he done extremely well. And Sol, who had a great knockout before that fight as well, last year, he got a chance now he'll get his chance to come back, see what he's all about. But that was a fabulous win for him. Fabulous win.
With David Adeleye, that 14 months out, he's now linked up with Adam Booth, who's been working with for a fair bit. A statement performance, putting Sold Acres away in 1 round, almost like a new signing, because he'd left the scene for a bit. David Adeleye, he was out the ring for ages.
Yeah, he had these injuries. He had a couple of injuries, which was a bit of a shame. But he's shook them off, and it's all about your last fight, isn't it? And his last fight, he showed what he's all about.
On that card as well, Lawrence Okolie made his heavyweight and Queensberry debut. I said to you earlier, you must be delighted that Fabio Wardley's on board. Same sentiments with Lawrence?
Do you know what I said before we was previewing his fight? And I said at the time, I said, I felt that this weight division will suit him. I was surprised because I'd never met him before. But how big he is, he's a giant of a man. And I'm thinking, how on earth did he ever make cruiserweight? And I heard an interview where he sort of half mentioned about how he was struggling at the weight. And I felt that, okay, you fight a heavyweight. We're on board with that. You're a 2-time world champion. We're on board with that. Show us what you're all about. And he did. He bloody did in a big, big way. No doubt about that. What he did was phenomenal. That was an unbelievable knockout. He made a statement himself. I think he's ranked number 3 in by one of the governing bodies now. Number
BC.
2. Yeah, he's up in the top half of their ranking. And by the way, that's how it normally works out.
Well, listen, Zhang and Caballero on Feb 22nd are fighting for that final eliminator for the WBC title. And next up is Lawrence Okolie.
Correct.
In the interim, though, yourself, Joe Gallagher obviously trains him. How do you navigate that situation in terms of his next fight? Could he be a Joe Joyce, someone like that?
We will see, but he needs a big fight. He's got to keep the momentum going. And somebody may want to take his scalp to jump up the rankings. That's why these fights are all competitive.
Yeah, he's got that reward with him.
Of course he has. Yeah. That's what it's all about. That's what they're doing. They're going out and taking their chances and going and showing what they're all about. I mean, all these guys are, none of them are backing off these fights. They're going into these fights. They know what's at stake.
The last heavyweight I want to discuss, Moses Itauma, sort of leaves you speechless at times because you have to remember he's 19 years old. And really, I haven't seen anything like it in the heavyweight division since Mike Tyson was coming through the ranks. Is that fair?
That's a fair analogy. He's, I fancied him to win the fight, but I thought we were going to get some rounds, as I did for the previous fight. But he's just an amazing talent. He's, the power again is unbelievable. And how relaxed he is in throwing his punches. He's got a great jab, got a good boxing brain, and he's done a job in a big way.
He's had 4 wins this year, all in devastating fashion. I mean, the notable ones, obviously the one you just mentioned over Dempsey McKean a couple of weeks ago, and Marius Wack, which was in July at the O2. 2 guys that...
No one's done that to them.
No, they were meant to give him rounds.
Yeah.
And he wiped them away in devastating fashion, didn't even break a sweat.
And and when the fights are made, we're going to, my thing in the back of my mind, are they going to roll man in with the experiences they got, the fighters they've been in with? Well, didn't happen at all, did it? In fact, he looked, although the fights didn't last that long, he looked the more composed out of all of them.
The reason I said sometimes you forget he's 19 as well, he's such a good guy to be around, and he's very level-headed and mature. You think you're speaking to like a 25, 26, 27-year-old. He's still a teenager, but he's got a good head on him. He's
got a very good head on his shoulders, and he's got a good team around him. Francis is his manager. He's done a brilliant job, and he's got a couple of his family involved, again, who work well with him. Ben's done a great job in his team. It's a great little unit they got working there, and at the end of the day, he can fight. That's what he can do. He can fight, no doubt about that.
Yeah, a special talent.
Yeah, very special talent.
What do you think 2025 looks like for Moses?
Literally, he could do whatever he wants to do. I'm telling you, he could do whatever he wants to do.
So you'd throw him in the deep end, no hesitation.
No, I wouldn't. I don't want to throw. I don't believe, especially with young fighters, throwing them in the deep
But you
end.
said if he wanted to do it, he could do it.
No, I believe he'd do it. I believe whoever he fights, I think that whoever it is and the level they are, I think he gives anyone a massive, not a problem, a massive problem.
So how do you want to shape his 2025?
I want to see him. I want to see him win a version of the title, and I want to see a big domestic bust up down the road between maybe Daniel and him and whoever they're standing.
David Adeleye?
Yeah, all of those guys. All those fights are there to be made. It's so exciting. It's so exciting. And the combinations of the different fights you can make. It's just bloody brilliant.
Yeah. And lastly, on Moses, you mentioned sort of that some fighters in particular that you really invested in and put your art into and kept going with. Someone, Moses is a good example because you sponsored him when he was 15. Is that correct?
Very young, yeah.
Was he 15 years old? Yeah,
15 or 16, yeah.
So just talk. People might not be aware of that. Just talk to me about what that procedure was like. So you spotted him in an amateur scene.
So Francis actually was the one who
okay.
brought him to attention, and then we just got, we just done it. And remember, his brother was with us, Carol,
yeah,
who's fighting again this year. Yeah. So Carol was with us, and they're very talented. I mean, Carol won a gold medal in the Youth Olympics, so they're very, quite a talented family.
Right. Okay. I'm just going to work through my way around sort of some guys who have had notable years in the Queensberry stable. So that piece on the heavyweights took 40 minutes. That's how many heavyweights you've got. Right. Hamzah Sheeraz, a tremendous year. The knockout of Amo Williams, Tyler Denny, two top level guys who wanted to get to the stage that now Hamza's at, fighting for a world title on Feb 22nd. But a breakout year for Hamzah Sheeraz on the world scene.
Yeah. I mean, well, we got behind our man very early days. I mean, it's not happened in a year. It's happened in the years as well leading up to it, and we identified him as being a talent, and he's come through and he's done it brilliantly. He's shown what he's all about. Very calm and cool and collected. He had a tough fight. The fight before was a real tough fight in Riyadh.
Oh, Amo Williams.
Yeah, Amo Williams, who's a real, good fighter, competitor. He come to fight. That was a good fight for him. That was a good learning fight.
Well, we saw he could take a shot.
Yeah,
and recover.
And he got caught with a couple of good shots. Don't worry about that. And recovered and come back. But he's in for his title fight on the 22nd of February in the Riyadh season fight, and that's going to be a cracking fight against Ademez.
Most certainly is. Do you know what? I forgot another knockout he had, and it was right at the start of the year. That's why I forgot Liam Williams.
Yeah. I mean, he blasted him, didn't he? He's a powerful, powerful puncher. And again, got a good team around him, and he's a good trainer. His trainer, Rick, he's a really, really, I think he really gets the best out of him. It's a good team.
I just can't believe that he used to make 154, Hamzah.
I don't know how he done it. I'm surprised how he makes the weight he does now. He's a big guy.
Yeah, you could definitely go and see him at super middle, heavyweight even one day.
Easy,
Yeah. Okay, another middleweight who's had a brilliant year himself on the British circuit, Denzel Bentley. Because, he's obviously had a few setbacks himself, and you stuck by him. And he had that devastating knockout at York all over Danny Dignam. Same with Derek Asazi. And then more recently had a brilliant fight with Brad Pauls that went the distance. But Denzel's year's been tremendous. He's
been brilliant. And he's shown that, you got to overcome adversity. It doesn't always go your way for various reasons. It might be on the night the best guy won. It might be on the night you had a problem and you went into it. The thing with boxers, you don't get out of bed and think, I feel a bit dodgy this morning, or I got a headache, or I had a row with a missus yesterday, I'm going to take the day off work. You got to go to work because that's the date. That's what you trained for, to fight on that night. And he is, I've said, has shown what he's all about. He's gritted his teeth and been determined and come back. So he's now number one in the WBO. So I'm hoping he wins that version of the title. It's a tough fight, but he should have won the world title the last time he fought for it. We could have won that fight. And if he does that and Hamzah comes through, what a fight that would be.
Most certainly. That could fill out the O2, no problem.
But again, they're two guys that we've worked with and worked closely with their respective teams, and Martin does a brilliant job as well with Denzel. They got a great relationship, and it's fabulous working with them.
With Denzel, you mentioned his spot in the WBO. What have you heard, or you may have not, about Janabek potentially vacating his title?
There's been lots of rumours, but nothing concrete yet.
Okay. We'll see how that situation develops. Brad Pauls, obviously I said, suffered that loss to Bentley at the end of the year, but he really announced himself to British fans.
He did.
Had that draw with Heaney, which was a classic fight at the start of the year.
It was a great fight, wasn't it?
And then beat Nathan Heaney in the rematch. And just because he's come off that loss to Denzel doesn't mean he can't be in big fights this year. Just
look what Denzel's done.
Yeah.
That's all you've got to do. Just look. I'll tell you, you look back over the years, look what Daniel's done, Daniel Dubois done. Look what Amir Khan's done. It's about learning from the defeat. And if you've got anything about you, it's about showing that you can overcome adversity, that you can go and make it better. You can go and do it, learn from it. That's what it's about. Some guys can do it, some can't. But the good guys, the ones who've got this in them, they come through.
Yeah, and Brad's another brilliant guy to work with.
Yeah, he's lovely to work. Really nice fella.
Nathan Heaney had those two fights with Brad Pauls. I guess that the plan was always to go to Stoke Stadium with a big fight. What does Nathan's 2025 look like?
He's going to have a good year. He's going to get the opportunities. He's been brilliant with us. He's really well liked. He's got fabulous support, and we'll continue to give him the opportunities, and he'll grasp them. He's shown what he's all about. He can, when the chips are done, he's shown what he's all about, and I genuinely do feel if he was quite close to getting a shot at a world title this year. He was wanted to do it last year. He wanted to do it in Stoke, and we were that much away from it happening. It's up to him now to go and get himself into contention, and we'll deliver if he does it. No doubt about that.
Well, that's the heavyweights and the middleweights wrapped up. And I started with those two divisions because across the stable, Queensberry are blessed with talent all over the shop. But I do believe the heavyweight division, the middleweight divisions are your two strongest. Which I've done them now, but those two divisions in particular.
Well, they are, but we're blessed with talent. You know that. You can go down the rankings. You look like, Nick Ball.
We will come on to him.
Oh, were you going to? Oh, sorry.
We will come on to him.
I didn't realise you was going to get onto that. Go on, carry on.
No, we will come on to that. I just want to speak about the light heavyweights, actually. Willy Hutchinson had a brilliant win over Craig Richards. Start of the year.
Brilliant win. And then
a loss to Boatsi.
A loss to Boatsi, who's now, he's got a great fight again on the 22nd. But he's in action again with Zach Parker, which is a cracker of a fight in Manchester on the same card as Derek Chisora. That is a brilliant fight. I'm looking forward to that one.
Sure is. Someone who's really coming through the ranks is Ezra Taylor. Exciting fighter. And that knockout he had last time out, devastating.
Yeah, that was a cracker of a knockout, wasn't it? No doubt about that. Cracker of a knockout.
You mentioned Zach Parker there as well. Was in a big.
Well, Zach's got himself back into contention, and he had a couple of injuries and a few little problems, but they're all gone now. And now he's got a great opportunity. It's a good fight for both of them.
Liam Cameron, a new addition that you made in 2024. Before you got on board with him, he had a loss to Lyndon Arthur, but it was a closely contested fight. Then he fought Ben Whittaker, and many thought he was actually going to stop Ben Whittaker if there was a couple of more rounds in that fight. How do you look back upon that fight? It was very controversial, the way it ended with Cameron and Whittaker.
I think it was controversial how it ended, but I don't think it was any. The only thing for me was controversial was the decision, because I thought he was going to win that fight, and had that not ended the way it ended, I believe he would have stopped him.
Do you think we see Whittaker Cameron too?
We have no problem making that fight. No problem at all.
Okay. Someone else that you signed in 2024 was Sam Gilley, who had a brilliant win over
didn't he make a statement
Jack
on
McGann.
the night? Yeah.
Yeah.
He really did, didn't he? He made a statement on the night. And what a nice bloke. Again, he done extremely well. I was thrilled for him.
Talking about welterweights, arguably fight of the year. We've talked about obviously Usyk-Fury, which was on a global scale, but for more hardcore fans, that fight between Owen Cooper and Ekow Essuman.
Oh, Jesus. I mean, that was unbelievable. I mean, we've had some great fights, some great shows, and that is a standout fight, no doubt about that.
For sure.
I mean, that was an amazing fight.
There's actually a lot going on.
And Ekow deserves an opportunity this year to fight for a big title.
A world title, perhaps?
Oh, if he keeps doing what he's supposed to do, yeah.
Okay. So there's a lot going on actually in the welterweight division in terms of Queensberry capacity, because Sean Noakes as well had 2 good wins over Inder Bassett, the O2, and then Matthew Rennie later this year. And Francis, your son who manages Sean, was really delighted with the later win against Rennie, because that was on paper, that was a 50-50
That was a good fight for him, yeah. Good fight for him, yeah.
Okay.
That'll stand him in good stead, that, moving forward.
Okay, Chantelle Cameron, how do you assess her? Kind of punch perfect, wasn't she?
Punch perfect, done what she had to do, and the obvious fight is the one we'd all like to see, isn't it?
With Katie Taylor?
Yeah.
I'm sure you and Eddie can get onto that.
I hope so. Me and my new bestie, we should be able to do that, I hope.
That could sell out Croke Park, in Ireland.
Yep. It'd do good business over here as well.
Yep. Okay. Pierce O'Leary.
Well, he's going from strength to strength, isn't he? Clark Kent. I mean, he's like Superman once he gets in that ring when them glasses come off. He's done brilliantly, and we're delighted with where he's at. And he will be in a big fight this year, no doubt about that.
Okay. Mentioned one Noakes, Sean, his brother Sam.
Oh, he's a handful, isn't he? He's also shown another dimension to his skills. We know he can punch, and he's all action. He's got tremendous engine, but he's shown a great boxing brain in a couple of his fights this year. Or sorry, last year.
Yeah, last year. I mean, he had 4 fights. 3 fights. He had 3 fights. Notably, though, I thought the win over Yvonne Mendy was his standout.
It was, and he boxed extremely well. And I genuinely believe he was smart, and I actually do feel he could have stopped him.
It's another one that your son Francis has got.
Yeah, well, he's got a great group of fighters that he's managing. He's a good manager. He's my son, but and obviously I'm proud of what he does, but he is a very, very good manager.
With Alex Krasik, you are involved with Dennis Berencic.
Yeah.
Lightweight world
Love
champion.
to make that fight.
Him and Sam.
Yeah.
Do you think it happens this year?
We will see, but I love it.
Okay. But he's ready for that, Sam?
Yep.
Okay, good to hear. Someone who it's all right. Someone who's on a terrific run in the same division was obviously Mark Chamberlain, someone that you manage as well as promote. Was kind of a Riyadh season started that knockout over Gavin Gwynn, and another fantastic knockout. And then what happened at Wembley? Did he overlook Josh Padley? What happened in your opinion?
He got beat by the better man on the night, and that's what happened. And he's got to show what he's all about and come back from it. A lot of stuff going on outside the ring with him, and hopefully that's all gets sorted out. But he is capable. He's more than capable, and he's got to get out there and re-establish himself. He's more than capable of doing it. He's been up to see me. We've sat down, we've talked, and we will get him out, and he will get the opportunity to show what he's all about.
Okay. Right.
We should be talking about him fighting for a world title.
Mark.
That's what we should have been doing. And by the way, I don't want to take nothing away
from Padley.
Nothing at all. He boxed extremely well.
Yeah. Okay. I'm very excited to talk about this man, because you talked about having belief in people and sticking by people, and no better example than Anthony Cacace.
Oh, I know some of the things that have happened in his career, and I know that once he's done what we know he can do, which is to get into training for a fight, focus and doing it. Got a good team behind him, good manager, good trainer. Once he was focusing on doing what he's good at, it was there to see for everybody there for it to see it happen. And he's done it not once, he's done it twice in great style. And he'll be in a big fight this year, a big fight.
Come on to that, but I just want you to reflect over both wins. The win over Joe Cordina, which is where he won the world title, a very emotional night for him, and obviously his defence against Josh Warrington. Just give me your summary.
Well, both of them. He outshone both of them, didn't he? I mean, Joe was a big favourite going into that fight, a big favourite. We fancied our man, and it was on the 5v5 night, and he done a job. He absolutely outboxed him and broke him down and won the fight. And he did the same thing again with Josh Warrington. He done a job on Josh Warrington. 2-time world champion, all the experience he's had, and he just done a job on him.
Okay, so where does this situation lie with Cacace? Because he's got a mandatory due against Sugar Nunes, but I've heard whispers about a fight with perhaps Lee Wood as well, which would be a massive domestic fight in this country. So what does 2025 look like for Cacace?
It looks a very good 2025 for him, and we'll be making an announcement soon about who he's fighting.
Glad to hear that. Someone I want to mention in the super featherweight division, because you said your son George is very level-headed and he takes emotions out of it. If you mention this name to him, you see his eyes light up, and that's a recent signing of Jadir Herrera. He's very excited about him, Frank. Is George?
He's a great prospect, isn't he? He's a handful, to say the least. And we're really pleased he's on board, and he's world championship, world champion material. Got it written all over him.
Yeah, well, we spoke about you get these special talents like Moses Itauma. I guess he could perhaps be in the bracket as well.
I mean, he's a special fighter, no doubt about that.
Ryan Garner had that win over Archie Sharp at the O2, notably.
Yeah.
Pleased with his year?
Very pleased. He's settled down. He's got a family now. He's married, and it's brilliant. I mean, I'm really pleased for him how things have turned out.
You've had to stick by him as well, actually.
Yeah. Well, look, sometimes when talent gets you here, and there's a lot of talented people, dedication is what gets you over the line. And if you don't persevere and show that dedication, then it can go by the wayside. And I've seen that with some unbelievably talented fighters over the year who've not achieved their full potential. And I was worried at one stage that was going to happen with Ryan. And I was determined, working with his team, that wouldn't happen. And, thankfully he's turned it around, and he's heading the bill now down in Bournemouth.
South Coast, yeah.
Yeah, on the South Coast. I mean, the tickets have gone extremely well down there. We'll have a full house there. And he comes through that fight, which is a tough fight. But if he comes through that, I'd love to see a world title fight for him in his hometown, Southampton, or home city, Southampton.
Okay. I mentioned Archie Sharp there, who I know you're going to continue working with, Frank. How do you navigate his 2025? I
think he's going up a weight now, isn't he? Talking about that. So that's what will happen. He'll go up a weight, and he's got to establish himself in a new weight division. But he's very capable of doing that.
Yeah. Royston Barney-Smith.
Well, he's maturing, isn't he? He was a young lad when he came with us, again from early days, and he believed in us, and vice versa. We certainly believe in him. He's got a good family. He's got a good team around him. Ben's looking after him. I manage him. And we believe in him. And this year, he's going to win some identifiable titles. That was what will happen, and we will push him. He's very, very ambitious. He's maturing physically now. You look at him the last time out, he looks more now. He's getting grown more into a man.
He's a classy operator as well.
He can box. He's got a good boxing brain. He can punch, and he's smart. He's a very, very smart young fighter. And he's one of our big talents, no doubt about that. And I'm looking forward to seeing him in some big fights and winning some big titles this year.
Well, you're going to be excited about talking about this one because it's like you just wind him up and let him go. Nick Ball, who really should be a unified world champion, shouldn't he?
Yeah, Liberty. What happened there? The old wrecking ball. I mean, he's I know I keep using the phrase "nice guy," but he is. He's a nice, really lovely fella. But I tell you, once he's in that ring, you wouldn't want to be, want him all over you, would you? I mean, he's relentless. He's got a tremendous engine. Like Sam Noakes, they got these engines in them. It's just, as soon as the first bell goes, they're throwing punches. They're hunting you down, not giving you any room. and just overwhelming them with their work rate. And he's a good boxer and very hard to hit. I love him.
That fight with Vargas, we'll start with that one. I mean, I mentioned it there. He should have got the W, shouldn't he?
That was a bad decision. When have you ever heard me get on a microphone? Ever. I've never done that ever at a show. I was so, I don't know. But listen, what happened, and it's a liberty. But
the win over Ray Ford, which is a brilliant fight.
Yeah, and look at the quality of the 2 world title fights and fighting a world-ranked quality fighter in his hometown.
Yeah, that defense against Ronnie Rios, which was a back and forth fight at times.
Good fight against a very experienced and clever operator.
Yeah. I mean, it's 2025. What does that look like for Nick Ball?
Going to be great. It's going to be great. We've announced his fight for Liverpool back in his home city, and I'm looking forward to it.
He's been a great story, though, hasn't he? Because, as I said, he wasn't known on the circuit to wider fans a couple of years ago.
No, he's got a game. He's got a great manager, great relationship with his manager and his trainer, Paul Stevenson. They're a really good team. They've got good spirit there. They're very supportive of each other, and they're good people to work with. And if you've got gel and you work together with people well, and you believe in them, because that's what it's all about. It's not just about, get a fighter in, give him a fight. You've got to believe in them. And if we believe in them, we're behind them. And I believe in them.
Raven Chapman, who had a good win in the summer, but then obviously suffered that loss to Sky Nicholson, who's a very tricky fighter to fight, Sky. How do you assess Raven's year and what's to bring in 2025? She had a good year,
and that fight was just, for me, is a fight she's got to learn from. You've got to have plan A, B, and C. And unfortunately, during the fight, she was fighting someone who's very elusive, who must be horrible to fight. By the way, I'm not saying nothing against Sky. She's a good champion, but it's the art of hitting and not being hit. And she's a great exponent of that. But I thought, I think Raven could have done better, but it didn't happen. It weren't her night. So she'll learn from it. And she's with us, and she's a lovely person, and she's part of our team, and we'll give her another opportunity.
Similar story with Liam Davis, up and down year for him. He had that terrific win over Eric Robles Ayala, and then headlined again against Shabazz Massoud. But was he outclassed at times?
Yeah. Couple of things in that fight. I mean, leading up to that fight, you look what he's done in a very short period of time. British, Commonwealth, European champion, like that, looking brilliant in every fight. Well, I wasn't aware of how much he was struggling to make the weight. And that in that fight for me showed, and I think his emotions in it. And sometimes you've got to lose a fight to learn, and that for him, I believe, is a fight that he can learn from. He's going up a weight now. Excuse me, and I believe he's capable of winning a world title, and hopefully we can get a rematch down the road between the two of them.
Okay. Right, okay. Dennis McCann obviously had notable wins against Brad Strand and Baluta, which was very good for him. Was scheduled to box Peter McGrail. We all know what happened. So would like to firstly get a sort of an update on Dennis' situation.
It's really simple. There'll be a hearing, and the hearing will determine what will happen.
Do you know when that hearing is?
No.
Okay. But you said to me when you spoke about it in Riyadh that we're not going to string this process with Dennis.
No, well, what's the point of stringing it out? Or meet its adversity, meet it and deal with it. And he swore to me that he hasn't done anything wrong, so he'll have his opportunity to do what he's got to do.
Okay. Andrew Kane had a brilliant year, didn't he?
He did. He showed what he's all about. I mean, again, he had some, real good quality performances again from Paul Stevenson's gym, and he just done brilliantly.
Okay. Just before we close off, Frank, I want to mention a few things.
Excuse me.
A lot of the fights that we discussed, good moments for yourself, came on one night, and that was June the 1st in that 5v5, which was an unprecedented moment. Especially for British boxing fans, seeing Warren v Hearn. It's quite surreal actually walking around Boulevard World, seeing both your faces across the whole of Riyadh. Even for yourself, that must have been quite something.
It was, no doubt about that. And obviously we were very pleased with the outcome of it all. No doubt about that, mate.
Yeah, 10-0 whitewash, which was a tremendous night for yourself. But on the whole, working with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom, a completely different and new thing for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I never thought was it in 2023 when I said this was going to be a game changer, it would actually be that type of game changer. But it's been good. It's been good for British boxing, and we've made some good fights together, all of us.
Yeah, it's benefited the ecosystem, hasn't it?
It has, no doubt about that. No doubt about that.
How would you describe him now, Mr. Hearn?
He's all right. When we meet, we have a laugh, and we, as I say, shoot the breeze, and and talk about boxing. And there's a passion from both of us. And George is obviously speaks with Eddie on a more regular basis than I do, but they got a great relationship. I think I like to feel we've got a good relationship. I like Frank Smith, who I've got a lot of time for, and it's good. And what we've done up to as yet, we're delighted with. Obviously, the 5v5 was the old cherry on the cake, or maybe with Daniel and in with AJ, but it's been good, and he's had a couple of revenge fights back. So I just hope we can continue doing what we're doing. We're going to do a 5v5 in May. That's going to happen.
Do you know Riyadh or the UK? Do you know yet?
I'm not going to say where it's at yet, but we've all discussed it, and everybody's up for that.
And in terms of the process with His Excellency, just describe how it works. You've got George, your son, yourself. You've got Spencer Brown from Gold Star. See Eddie from Matchroom as well. So is it just like a bit of a panel situation where you all discuss fights and then take it to His Excellency? How does it work?
No, just basically what happens after a fight. Sometimes we just go back to his place and we talk about the next show, or we speak about it when we meet, and ideas bounce off. He has it in his head what he'd like to do as a main event and so forth. And he's very he's very fan friendly as to the fights that he'd like to see. And obviously there's fighters that we push to put into fights either against each other's opponent or somebody else. But the cards are built like that, and up to now the formula's worked in a big way.
We're just lucky, I guess. He's a super fan of the sport.
Well, he is, but we all are, and that's why we all work to make this happen.
But I guess in a different scenario, if you had someone who's investing the money in, and that would be great, even if it was just that, but kind of just left you guys to do it, or said, "Oh, actually, I want to make that undercard a little bit weaker." But from what I've heard, it's the opposite.
No, it's the Riyadh season. It's for us as promoters and the boxers. It's about the books have to balance. I mean, if you're doing a pay-per-view show and the fighter's taking a percentage of that pay-per-view show, or we're all working on percentages, whatever it is, it is. The Riyadh season isn't a promotion. Riyadh season is a multicultural, multi-event season for those 6 months, roughly 6 months. And during that season, a lot of events happen. And thankfully, there's a lot of world-class, top-class boxing events have happened that have generated magnificent PR for them, established Riyadh as being the world capital of boxing. So it's ticked all the boxes for them, and it certainly ticks all the boxes for everybody else.
And also on those nights, I mean, the celebrities and stars we get at ringside.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've been there. The atmosphere's been brilliant. I mean,
the 2 Fury fights, the atmosphere was good.
Well, not according to one of these idiots whose column was a disgrace. And I shouldn't even bring that up really, but it annoys me when people just don't tell the truth about how it was. They've been brilliant atmospheres there. They've been exciting cards, and as you say, both the Usyk and Tyson fights were phenomenal atmospheres.
Good to see Jason Statham.
Well, my late father, my dad and his dad were pals.
Right. Because I saw you talking ringside.
Yeah, well, I asked him, I was asking him how his dad was. And they were friends. And he's a big friend also of another good friend of mine, Robert Earl. But, his dad and my dad were big friends. And I never knew that. Until after my dad passed away. Yeah.
I'm going to get your favourite moment from 2024. I'm going to push you for it, but I'll come on to that in a second. One situation, I don't want to go over it for too long, but I have to bring it up, the Anthony Yard thing. How do you reflect on that, Frank?
I don't. It's gone. done, dusted. It's irrelevant to me now. All I'm interested in is 2025, working with the guys we work with.
What was your moment of 24 rather?
Bloody hell. Do you know what? There were so many of them. It's very difficult. It's difficult to say. I mean, Wembley was a brilliant, brilliant event. The 5v5 was a brilliant event. You know, there's so many of them. You know, Nick Ball's winning the world title was a brilliant. Anthony Cacace. I mean, you know, it's just so many different things there. I've been blessed. I've probably had a decade or 2 decades worth of good moments in 1 year.
Yeah. We didn't even mention the LA card that Riyadh season had.
That was a great card, wasn't it? Another fabulous card.
Yeah. The run you had with TNT Sports, I know you've still got a few months left on the deal. It's been a tremendous journey. They didn't, BT as it was then, didn't even have a boxing service.
No, we built it.
You know, it was in partnership actually with BoxNation at the start. And the nights with Fury and Wilder, some of the heavyweight nights with Daniel Dubois, obviously all the Riyadh season stuff recently that's been on TNT. And I've heard you say that the guys are really good there and you've had a great journey with them at TNT.
When we done the deal, the original deal, we said to them, we believe with our plan, our business plan, with our investment, the fighters we've identified, that we can become the strongest promotional group in boxing. And we believe that our fighters, certainly in the heavyweight division, which was the big interest, would be we could basically have the best fighters there. And Tyson winning the world title, as he did. Remember, none of these guys were world champions when they went there. Tyson had been, but he'd gone off the rails. Tyson came back, won the world title. We said we'd sign up the best young talent, the best young heavyweights. We've done that in Daniel and with Moses, and you look now with David Adelaide come back. You look at Fabio coming with us. You look at Lawrence Okolie coming with us. I mean, so many good fighters now. We delivered in more than a big way. They've had a couple of changes of personnel over the years, but really good people that we work with. Great production team, really, the executives, really good people. I mean, it's been a joy to work with. It's a bit, in some ways, I'm sad that it's coming to an end and will come to an end in March. But then I'm so thrilled about what's going to happen for the future, because come April, it's a new challenge. You know, we're going on a channel where there are a few promoters working. So our job is to be as competitive as we are, is to be the number one. With the fighters that we're bringing there to put on the best shows, working with the people there, some people we've worked with in the past who are now on board with DAZN, real quality people who we respect amongst some of the existing people who are good guys, the senior executives who are really, really solid people. And I've met with Solen on quite a few occasions now, and his foresight, his vision, and his commitment to it. And that is why we're going there. Because for us, that's going to be the next big challenge for us, to go there and show them what we're all about and what we can do and what we can add to DAZN.
And if you're a DAZN customer now you've got Golden Boy shows, you've got Matchroom shows, you've got Queensberry shows, the Riyadh season stuff. If you're a boxing fan, there's no way you can't have DAZN now.
It's a no-brainer, isn't it? It's the place to be.
We've talked about what you want to bring to DAZN. What's the thing that's most exciting about DAZN bringing to you?
I think that we're looking to expand our horizons to do. I used to do lots of shows around the world. We made a conscientious decision, as I say, a few years ago, to focus on what we were doing with BT, as it was then, and we should become TNT, and we've been very successful in doing that. Our next challenge is to get back to what we were doing in the past, and that will be putting on big shows here and around the world.
Listen, Frank, I appreciate all the time that you gave me in 24. Should be loads more of it in 25.
I hope so, mate. I hope so. It's been a pleasure, and it's been a delight. You've done a brilliant job, mate, in a short space of time.
Thank you. Do you want to just leave a final message with everyone watching on BoxNation about 2025 and a Happy New Year message as well?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody who stuck with BoxNation and have been on our journey in the last year. It was an excellent year, and I promise you this year is going to be even better. And we wish you all a happy, healthy, and successful new year. God bless you all.
Absolutely. Frank Warren, Box Nation.
Excuse me.
Get better soon. Thank you very much.
I'll get rid of this. That's my New Year's resolution.